Hello, and welcome to the 2022 Jack Tosh Preview Show. I'm your host, Bobby Hessling.
And I'm Josh Melvin.
I'm Gavin, Connolly.
And I'm Gavin, Hughes.
Today we're going to break down every game in the Jack Tosh Holiday Classic, and we're going to start off with Naperville North and Glenbard West, which is at 10 a.m. in the South Gym. So Gavin, Naperville North and Glenbard West are obviously two teams that are really, suburban, I shouldn't say powerhouses, but they can always make noise. In Naperville North, they're obviously a sleeper. Gene Nolan, he's leading the way for them. Tough, well prepared, very defensive heavy. That's the one thing they've always been. And you look at this team. Last year, the Huskies finished 4-1, won the Constellation Championship. We were obviously there for that. Luke Williams was a junior last year. He's back this year. Is one of the most talented players in this field, averaging 20 points per game. We're going to talk to Gene Nolan here in just a moment. We'll talk about Glenbard West just before that. But Naperville North, they are truly a sleeper.
Yeah, I tell you what, Glenbard West coming off obviously champions last year, but they got a lot of holes to fill. I mean, talk about Braden Huff, just the first of many. I believe they had 4 of 5 of those starters last year go in to college basketball in D1, not just any level. Yep. So it's interesting. I think what makes this game, a little bit more than just another, opening round Tosh game is the fact that Naperville North was knocked out last year in the sectional against Glenbard West. Something to really keep an eye on. Now, with Glenbard West, that 1-3-1 defense could prove to be an issue for the Huskies. However, Logan Brown is also someone to keep an eye on, I think, just in the tournament throughout.
It should be a fun one indeed. Gene Nolan should be on the phone here. Gene, can you hear us right now?
Yes, thanks for having me on. I appreciate this.
Well, welcome to the show. I don't believe you were on it last year. So just getting this thing started and underway, again, thank you for your time. Luke Williams, he's a special player, only a junior. Can you tell us a little bit about his game and why he's so difficult to guard?
Yeah, thanks. Luke's a great kid and really good athlete, dual sport athlete for us here at North, and he's really skilled. And so as a basketball player, he's about 6'2", and he's got some physical strength. So and I think he uses that well. But he's also a skilled player that can pass, catch, and dribble and shoot, and so he's a threat offensively. But he's also one of the hardest workers, and defensively is super active. So he really plays hard for a kid that we rely on a lot offensively. He's a kid that is extremely active defensively as well for us.
Hey, Coach, so your 3 leading scorers are all juniors, and so obviously the future is pretty bright going forward. But how do you get these young guys, ready to play on, a bigger stage like the Tosh? And is your approach the same or a little bit different for this tournament in particular?
That's a great question. And fortunately, the 3 of our juniors, Luke Williams, Cole Arl, and Bryce Welch, were varsity players last year as sophomores. So although they're juniors this year, they do have experience in playing in, such a prestigious tournament. But we also have some other juniors and some seniors that, are just, especially the juniors that are up from the sophomore team last year, that this will be their first experience. So kind of trying to blend those, kids together, like on a new team this year, on a stage like this will be quite a challenge.
And last year, one last question, Coach, before we let you go. You guys won the regional last year. You ran into that Glenbard West buzzsaw that was led by Braden Huff and a bunch of 6'5+ kids. Is revenge on the mind for your kids this year coming into this game?
No, I wouldn't say that we're thinking of revenge or anything like that. They're such a great program, Glenbard West. And, last year's team, there's no shame in losing to them. I mean, they were such a great team, but perhaps the best team in state history, right? And, I was really proud of our guys, and, they really took it to us. But they did that to a lot of people, and they were just a great team and so well coached. And, I know it's a new group of guys that they have this year, and, but the tradition and who they are as Glenbard West basketball is still the same in the way that they play. They've got really good shooters. They play defensively so well. They're so active. And so we feel fortunate, one, to be in the tournament, and then to play a program like Glenbard West that's tradition rich the way that it is. We feel fortunate to get a chance to play against them.
Well, Coach Nolan, we thank you for your time. We are looking forward to see you and your team play this upcoming week. Obviously, a talented team. It's a young team, and obviously the future is very bright down there at Naperville North. We thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate all you do for the tournament. Thanks so much.
Of course. That was Gene Nolan from Naperville North. Moving down the bracket, obviously this is a good game. We're obviously excited for this one, and it could be a lot of fun for sure, to say the least.
Yeah, no, I think what's interesting is you have two really good coaches. Obviously, Coach Polka is a great leader. So I think we're gonna have a pretty good one here coming up.
Next on the list is Schaumburg and Riverside-Brookfield, which Josh and Gavin will talk about that one.
Yeah, so we'll have Coach Mike Reingruber, the coach of the RB Bulldogs, coming on the phone in just a bit. But just taking a look at Riverside-Brookfield, a 7-3 team, undefeated in conference, winning games by an average of 15 points. And last year they had to forfeit their spot in the Tosh last year, so I expect them to come back with extra motivation. This is also a team that has a winning record at the Tosh. Not many teams can say that. And their squad is led by a three-headed monster. That's Arius Aloysius, Stefan Sisic, and Will Gonzalez. Aloysius is a Winona State commit. He's 6'4", one of the best shooters, and Sisic is 6'11". Hernandez, an all-around defender, providing size as well. This is an extremely talented team that can make a deep run.
Definitely, and they're looking to rebound. Unfortunately, last year they were struck with the COVID bug going into the tournament. They weren't able to play in the Tosh last year. They were 9-1 going in, and the coaches brought back another great team and looking to really make a difference. And they're not going to have a rollover team here in the first game against Schaumburg. But I think we have Coach on the phone. Can you hear us, Coach?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for all the kind words about our team.
Of course, Coach. So obviously you guys were unable to participate in the Tosh last year due to COVID. How excited are you to be at the Tosh this year?
We're real excited. The kids are hungry, and the Tosh is such a great event. Vince and his whole team does a phenomenal job of putting it on, and we're real excited to be back at it and COVID-free.
For sure. And your team, they've been loaded with a big three all year, and that's Aloysius, Sisic, and Gonzalez. How has this depth, while still star power, how has that been advantageous to your season so far, and how do you expect that to help in the Tosh?
Yeah, I mean, we have it's a nice combination of size. I know you talked about Arias being one of the best shooters in the state, and Will Gonzalez is as skilled a guard that's out there, and being a 6'5" point guard and can kind of pass, dribble, shoot it, score it. It's a nice three-headed monster, and they complement each other really well.
And Coach, going up against a team that hasn't necessarily met all their expectations in Schaumburg, how do you make sure, and what are you going to do to make sure that you are able to be successful against a team like that that's going to be hungry coming in to turn their season around at a tournament like the Tosh?
Sure. I mean, Coach Tucker does a great job. He's done a great job with all the teams he's coached over the years, and I know he's implementing his style and his philosophy and everything at Schaumburg, and he's going to get it done. And we have a ton of respect for their program, and we've already been prepping, already been diving into film, and we've got practice here in a little bit, and start attacking our game plan for Schaumburg, but. We have a ton of respect for them, and I know it's going to be. There are no easy games at the Tosh, and it's going to be definitely a tough first-round matchup for us.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you at the Tosh. Best of luck to you and your team.
Thank you, guys. You guys do a great job. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Now, Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Schaumburg-Saxon team?
Well, as Coach Reinberger just brought up, Coach Tucker is really bringing a new culture into Schaumburg. This is his first year, and he's really been a successful coach anywhere he's He's been earned a Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Coach of the Year honors in 2015, 2017, and last year as an assistant at Stevenson. And he's been really, really good and has a 181 and 123 record as a head coach of Luther North, Sullivan, and Taft. Really good coach, trying to turn it around, and his team is led by two sophomores, Justin Turris and Javante McCoy. Look out for them to be really, really good. Turris averaging over 16 points a game, and this team is going to put up a fight this year, and it will be a great game between the Bulldogs and the Saxons.
Well, it should be one of just many great games at the Tosh. And up next, we have former Tosh player and now NBA star with the Miami Heat, Max Strus, on the phone right now. Is Max Strus there?
Yes, he is. How you guys doing?
How's it going, Max? Thank you so much
Good.
for your time, for joining us on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Now, Max, you've been with the Miami Heat for a couple of years now. You really broke onto the scene in last year's playoffs. How have you benefited from playing alongside very talented players like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo?
Yeah, they're superstars. It's easy to play with them, and they're likable guys. So it's a fun team to be a part of, and they've done wonders for my career.
Well, bringing it back to your time at the Tosh, how do you feel that the fast-paced and back-to-back environment of the Tosh really helped you reach your goals for the rest of the season when you were in high school, and has it really helped you moving forward into your career?
Yeah, the holiday tournament was awesome. Loved being a part of it. Only got to play in it for 1 year, so it was a blast. I loved the atmosphere and everything that York does to put on a great show for all the fans and all the teams. And there was a lot of great talent and a lot of great teams, and I ended up having a good tournament and was able to get a couple of scholarships offers from it. So it was a great time and a great tournament and very well ran.
Hey, Max, just as an NBA fan, one of my favorite guys to kind of pay attention to is Eric Spoelstra. What is he like as a coach and as a person, and how has he helped you advance in your NBA career as well?
Yeah, he's a good coach. Obviously, he's one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NBA. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's won multiple championships. So, it's pretty special that I get to play for a coach like that and learn from him. And, it's just, truly just great to be a part of the Miami Heat, and, looking forward to making another run here this year.
Hey, Max, we thank you for your time. One last question before we let you go. But coaches, going back, talking about the Jack Tosh here, coaches say it's a privilege to play in this tournament, and you said you played in it for 1 year. Do you agree with that statement, that it is actually a privilege to play in the Jack Tosh with how many teams and how much media coverage it can get?
For sure. I think it's one of the best tournaments in the state, and you're lucky to be a part of it. There's a lot of great, talented teams that play great basketball. So, it's good for the fans to get out there and watch, and, it just provides a, level of competition that, some good players can rise to that occasion and really be on the scene and be able to get noticed.
Well, Max, we thank you for your time. This is the first time we've actually brought on a NBA player onto the show, so we really appreciate your time. This means a lot to all of us. Best of luck the rest of the season with the Miami Heat. Go do something big.
Of course, guys. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
That's great.
Talk to an
Yeah.
NBA player. How about that?
First time ever. Wow.
Exactly. So switching gears, let's go back to the top of the bracket. Minooka and St. Ignatius. You two got that one. Talk about both those teams.
Yeah, so Minooka, not the best record here in the tournament. Only 1-8, 0-5 in conference. They've lost those games by 19 points. However, this is a perfect opportunity to catch the number 2 seed, St. Ignatius, sleeping. It's an 8:30 game, the day after Christmas. Perfect trap game for the Indians. And they beat a respectable Providence Catholic team, a team that beat Leo, who is a much higher ranked team. So we've seen Minooka be able to handle these teams that are superior to them. Their top scorers, they're led by Preston Van Pelt, 13 points per game, and Nick Adriano with 11 points per game. And it's very nice that the team has 2 options to go for, so if one star isn't shooting well, they have multiple options. So I would not count Minooka out. This is a game where you can just throw the records out. Anything can happen the day after Christmas.
Definitely, but then you look at St. Ignatius, you look at this roster, you look at the history and the team, and this is the first favorite we've seen or we've talked about the Tosh. The Wolfpack are currently undefeated in the state of Illinois, being 10-0, but they're 10-1 overall with 1 loss to the Gonzaga High School from Washington, D.C., where they are led by 3-star and future teammate of the star of St. Ignatius, Richard Barron. That's going to be Devin Dinkins, who played for Gonzaga, both committed to George Mason to continue their basketball careers. And as you said, St. Ignatius last year was really highly rated, number 3 in the state coming into the season. They had a bunch of stars, and they had as well as they had a bunch of stars in A.J. Redd, Jackson Katecki, Richard Barron, and Kobe Gills, who all had mouths to feed, so it kind of led to a bit of instability in St. Ignatius start to the season, and they lost on a game-winning buzzer beater to Conant, and then inevitably lost to Montini in the consolation bracket. But this year, they're a more congealed team as they have their star in Barron, and they have their next guy up in Kentucky who's going to go play at Miami of Ohio and become a part of Maction, but for basketball. And both of them have been playing out of their minds so far this year, as Barron already has 14 points per game and is on pace to reach that coveted 1,000-point mark. And Kentucky's been averaging 10 and 8 and consistently getting double-doubles. He has been awesome. The St. Ignatius team is awesome. They have depth, and they're really working well together this year, which is something that they started off last year not doing, but by the end, they beat Simeon in the third-place game of the 3A state playoffs. So if they can keep that momentum going that they had at the end of the season into this season, they're really going to be a force here in the Tosh. And my prediction is for them to go to the semifinals or be a part of that Final Four. They're a great team with a lot of talent, and I'm really excited to watch them play in the coming days after Christmas.
They do have the talent to go that far. Just like you said, last year, losing in the first round, an upset to Conant. We'll see if they can avenge that loss this year. Up next, two very intriguing programs. That's Leo and Lake Forest. Bobby, what do you know about these two schools?
Gavin's going to lead things off about Leo, but this should be a very interesting game when you look at it on paper. Gavin, tell us about Leo.
Yeah, so Coach Ridley takes over. I tell you what, Keelan Jordan is a guy to keep, your eye on. I think that could be a tournament player who's 23 points per game, kind of enough said. But Leo, ran into Glenbard West last year. I tell you what, we were both on call for that game. Second quarter and third quarter, that team did give Glenbard West a little bit of a game. Obviously, we talked about it with Coach a few minutes ago on the phone. One of the best teams, in all Illinois State history. But I do think Leo, 3-4 right now. Leo could be a potential problem for this Lake Forest team, who right now struggling a little bit. Bobby, you know more about that.
The thing is with Lake Forest, they have a ACC commit guard, Asa Thomas. We talked about him last year. He really blew up last year. Was a big name. He's played really well this season. He left the game the other night against Glenbrook South with an ankle injury that didn't seem to affect him. He finished the game. And the scouts, it's not just him. They have other guys, junior guard Tommy Aberle, who was a starter last year as a sophomore. He's gained valuable experience. And Coach Lascala's teams of Lake Forest are, well known for doing very, very well in the Jack Tosh. They won it in 13, and they've won it in 14. His teams are hard-nosed, man-to-man defense. They're very physical. They can get up and down the court. This is one of those games that you're going to watch, and you're like, this is extremely intriguing to watch start to finish, just because two teams play two different styles, but both are very, very physical.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, I remember Leo last year played very fast, right?
Yes.
It was one of those teams where it's just back and forth, just a lot of much faster paced offense than what I remember Lake Forest playing.
Did a very good job of running up and down the floor, and that's obviously the same style with Leo. While Lake Forest, the record's 4-5, but I don't think they're a 4-5 team whatsoever. I think they're a lot better than that. Asa Thomas has missed a few games due to injury. Obviously, he's been back, and I think this is a game for Lake Forest down the stretch to show how good of a team they actually are, because they have the talent. It's all about putting it together right now.
Yeah, agreed.
And so that wraps up the first quadrant in the South Gym between Minooka, Ignatius, Glenbard West, North, Schaumburg, Riverside-Brookfield, Leo, and Lake Forest. Guys, give your pick out of this little quadrant. Who do you think is the team that can really do a good job of running away with it and, being the favorites?
Well, I think I have to go with St. Ignatius. They are an amazing team in Phoenix Skills, another player who's just going to add so much off of Richard Barron and be able to take the pressure off of him, and their three-headed attack there as the leaders. It's not going to be an easy path, as all these teams are good, but I think they're going to be able to tough it out with Coach Monroe.
I agree. I have to go with Ignatius as well. I just feel like they have the top-end star talent, and they are coming into the Tosh red hot. I like them to carry over the momentum.
Someone's got to pick the sleeper. I'm going to go Naperville North. I do think that, Coach Nolan, I think this is just a different team than it was last year. I do think, and like I said, someone's got to pick the underdog. I do think that Naperville North has a really strong chance to make it out of the second round.
I'm going to go out of the way with this one. I think Lake Forest puts it together. I think they have that talent. I think them and Ignatius, let's say they meet on that day 3, that could be a very, very fun game to watch. So I'm going to go with Lake Forest on this one. So that does it for the top half of the quadrant. We're going to take a short little break. Again, thank you to all the coaches who called in. Thank you to Max Strus. That was pretty awesome. And when we come back, Nazareth and Yorkville, we'll talk about both of those teams and what they bring to the table in just a minute. Jumping into the second quadrant of the bracket, we're going to lead things off here with Yorkville and Nazareth. Both teams, Yorkville might be a favorite, but you two know it a little bit better than I do. Talk about Yorkville and Nazareth.
Yeah, Yorkville is definitely a team that we're looking at as one of the contenders in the Tosh, as they've had one of the most miraculous turnarounds of a program that I have seen. Last year going 9-21, this year 9-2. In 11 games, they've matched the same amount of wins as they got in their 30 games last year, and it's an incredible turnaround. And we actually have the coach of Yorkville, Coach Hovlosky. Are you there, Coach?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. And thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your time this afternoon.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We're excited to get to the Jack Tosh on Monday.
And so, speaking of the Jack Tosh, you've been a player at the Tosh and coached other programs at the Tosh, but this is your first appearance for Yorkville here. How do you get your players prepared for one of the biggest and the most prominent tournaments in our state?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been part of the Jack Tosh as a coach at Doran South and Hinsdale South. And, we've had a lot of success when I was with those two teams. So when I got the head coaching job at Yorkville, it was a no-brainer trying to reach out to Coach Doran, Coach Dunn, trying to get into the Jack Tosh right away. Obviously, we did that, and we're excited to get there. Biggest thing we're doing right now is we're just trying to build up some of the momentum we've had. Like you said, we got 9 wins right now. We had 9 wins all last year. We're just trying to build on the momentum we have right now and keep that good feeling gelling as a team and be ready to go on Monday.
And speaking of that incredible turnaround, what have been some key aspects to changing up, whether it's the culture or the players, or what's really changed between last year and this year to change the success and the fortunes of the Foxes basketball program?
Yeah, so we've had quite a few things. Our 2 leading scorers from last year's teams was a sophomore and a junior. LeBaron Lee was a junior last year, averaged 15 and 8. And then Jason Jackson was a sophomore last year on varsity. He averaged 15 and 7.5 rebounds a game. So them getting a year older and being a junior and senior now has really helped us. There are 2 captains. They've really kind of taken hold of our team and our program and have done a great job leading us, both in practice and in games. And then we've also had a couple transfers from Yorkville Christian. Actually, we've got 5 on our team from Yorkville Christian's team last year. 2 of them start, Davion Johnson and Jory Boley, who are both averaging, between 8 and 11 points a game, which have been big for us. And then we've got Davion Johnson and Bryce Salick, who come off the bench for us, who are also new to us this year. We've had a lot of success. We're also pretty young. Right now, we only have LeBaron Lee's our only senior in the rotation, so we do definitely have some good talent that have been doing some good things for us, but at the same time, it's a lot of young talent too. And so we're excited to see the rest of the season, how it goes for us, in addition to next year and beyond.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, you mentioned LeBaron Lee and Jason Jackson. Joey Boley's in there as well. These 3 are all off to great starts this season. What do they bring to the table? What should fans expect to see at the Tosh?
Sure. So LeBaron Lee is about a traditional post player. He's a lefty post player, does all his work by the basket, posting up, getting a lot of rebounds. He's a Division I baseball player. He's going to go to Illinois State next year and play baseball Division I. So he's got that, that Division I competitiveness and that effort, and he knows what it takes to be really good at a sport and be a leader. Like I said, he's a captain for us, so he's kind of leads the way with that as being our only senior on the floor. Jason Jackson is a 6'8". 4-man for us. He can play inside and outside. He can shoot a little bit. Finish by the basket. He can, get up and dunk and make some really athletic plays. And then Jory Boley, he's shooting 45% from 3 right now for us. He's really shot the ball well to start the season. He's pretty athletic. He can drive to the basket, good slasher, get out and transition and run a little bit. So all 3 of those guys, long, athletic, physical, and do a lot of great things for us, both on offense and defense.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for giving us some great information and a little insight to your team, as it's the first time the Foxes have played at the Tosh, and we wish you luck next week.
Thank you. We look forward to being there.
And as Yorkville looks towards the Tosh, they're in some pretty good hands as their only 2 losses have come in Oswego, playing at Oswego East and at Oswego, both giving up 56 points. So as long as they don't give up 56 points in the town of Oswego, which is pretty good because we're in Elmhurst over here, they look like a team to be reckoned with. As Coach really talked about, LeBaron Lee and Jason Jack Stiles is really going to bring a lot to the table, and both the leading scorers for that team. And as he said, Boley and Johnson both shooting 45% from 3. This is a team that can play inside, outside, shoot it, dominate down low. They're a great team, and they could really turn into a juggernaut as they won the Sycamore Holiday Classic over Thanksgiving break, and they're really turning around and starting to beat some good teams like Burlington Central Rockets by a score of 62-47, and I'm really looking forward to watching this great team play and make some noise.
Yeah, for sure. And they will be going up against the Nazareth Roadrunners, coached by Sean Pearson. And their record is very misleading, only 4-6. But Nazareth, they won the state title in football this fall, so a lot of their key contributors were on the football team as well. So they were shorthanded to start the season, attributing to a lot of these early season losses. Taking a look at Naz's play style, if they're going to beat you, it's going to be a defensive, slow-paced slugfest. Only scoring 45 points a game, giving up 48. Both are on the lower end of the Tosh, so a very slow-paced team. Taking a look at some of their players, Karen Cotton is their leading scorer, 15 points per game. Anthony Coletta follows him up with 9. And the coach's son, Taylon Pearson, has had some really big games too, a bit of a spark plug. The big question for this game is how will they match up to Yorkville, because Nazareth does not have the size as some of these Yorkville bigs. So it should be a very interesting matchup. Moving on next to Wheaton North and Palatine.
Yeah, Palatine is a team that they've been in this tournament for a number of seasons, well over 10 years. They were here when it was 16 teams. 16, that was 10 years ago. And, Vince Doran has done a great job of getting it from 16 to 32, and he's in the back, but we won't talk about him that much. But going back to Palatine, Palatine's got a few players to keep an eye out for. Connor May is a junior. He's the leading scorer, a lot of experience. Palatine's going to run a 6-man rotation. They don't go very deep into that bench. It's a young team. A lot of guys came back, too. A lot of advanced leadership. And all the starting 5 are back. 3 of the starters are back, that is. Grant Dershana is one of them in an all-conference last season. The guys who stepped in, Tommy Elter, he's stepped in, is a big role. And it's a team that's going to run a 1-2-2 zone. So that's what they like to do, a little half-court ball press action. That's what Palatine likes to bring to the table. And Swierzak averaging 15 points per game. He can shoot pretty well, too, 40% from the field. And I talked to Coach Millstone earlier this week, but we also have Coach Millstone on the phone. Coach, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys, yep.
So, Coach, just talked to you the other day, matter of fact, and it's obviously, so good to talk to you again. But as we mentioned, you've been coming to the Tosh for quite some time. Is this the best team that you've had entering the Jack Tosh Holiday Classic? Because I remember a few seasons ago in 2019, you had Julian Campbell and a few other guys. Would you like to say that this is the best team, or is one of the best teams that you're bringing into the tournament this season?
That's a good question. I think if you look solely at the record, I think we can make an argument for that. But we've had some really competitive teams going into the tournament. I think we're kind of in that same boat this year going in record-wise. And based on some of the teams that we've played, I think right now we can say this is one of our more competitive teams. I just think right now it's a little too early. And, the great thing about this tournament is after you get through with the 4 games in 4 days, you really know where you stand. So I could probably answer that question a little bit better after, by the end of next week.
Hey, Coach, Tyler Swierzak and your son Sam shoot that 3-ball really well. Do you have any other perimeter players that, folks should keep their eye on as the tournament goes on?
I think we've got a lot of kids going to step out and stretch a defense. Tyler's an accomplished shooter. Connor May shoots the ball extremely well. He was, as a sophomore, he shot just under 50% from the arc for the season. So, he's not necessarily a volume shooter from 3, but when you're knocking 1 out of every 2 down, that shows that you can do it. Sam's got to get a little bit more inconsistent with his shot, but we're also surrounding, those 3 guys with, Quinn Golitz is a senior for us who stepped up into a starting role, and he's really been shooting the ball well this year. So, you know, anytime that you can put guys on the floor that can stretch a defense, it's gonna keep teams a little bit more honest.
You just brought up Connor May and how he can shoot really well, but he's also a pretty big defensive impact as well. Averages 1.5 blocks per game. Can you tell us about his offensive game outside of his three-point shooting?
Yeah, Connor has really evolved into a really good inside-out player. And, you know, as a sophomore, he had some really good games for us. And then there were some games where he'd start off real well and, you know, he'd kind of blend in the rest of the game. And, you know, coaches always joke the best thing about sophomores is they become juniors. And, you know, with Connor, he's really stepped up and he's becoming a much more complete player. He's playing the game with a chip on his shoulder, and you can just see the way he carries himself on the floor that, you know, he's got so much confidence right now. And, you know, he's not shying away from anything. He wants the ball in his hands every time down the floor, and he can score inside and out. And, you know, when you got a kid who's 6'7" and can play inside and out, you know, that's a luxury that a lot of teams would love to have.
Well, Coach, we thank you for your time. We're obviously looking forward to seeing you this upcoming week. And obviously, you told me you're excited to be playing in the South Gym. You want to be playing there compared to the Campbell Gym. So we'll see you on Monday, Coach.
I appreciate it. You guys are doing a great job, and I think that's, you know, Bobby, I know we talked a couple days ago that it's one of the things that makes your tournament that it is just all the little things that they do, and, you know, the production that you guys do, and this show and the broadcast in every game, you guys do a phenomenal job. So looking forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you, Coach Millstone.
Okay, take care. We'll see you soon.
He does a really good job. Everyone, all these coaches, they just love what we do. So we just keep doing what we're doing.
We're an embraced media. We know we're not necessarily annoyed, right? No, but so flipping on the other side of that, matchup, Wheaton North. Tough thing about Wheaton North, and I think seniority is a huge deal in this tournament. They start 5 juniors. Now, a guy to keep your eye on is Hudson Parker, 7.5 points per game. He's also paired up with Jack Spears, who's got 10.3 points per game and 5 rebounds as well. So it's a young group that can be dangerous, but Palatine is red hot right now. Not a team that I would want to see. But it'll be interesting to see how that, again, Wheaton North, a 5-4 team, could be one of the more dangerous teams that are, you know, kind of sitting around that 500 mark. But it'll be interesting to kind of see how that matchup plays up. You know, obviously, I think the 3-point is, you know, with Palatine is going to be a problem for Wheaton North to defend.
Well, and that's the other thing. Palatine's 8-2, and that one loss came to Stevenson. And we know how good Stevenson is every year. They're just a really talented team. So obviously, you know, if maybe Wheaton North can do something, you know, 5 juniors, so next year you just know how talented they'll be. But I think Palatine just gets the edge over this one.
Tough matchup.
Switching gears, Batavia and LT is the next game up. Gavin and Josh, what do you have to talk about both those teams?
Yeah, so taking a look at this Lions squad, again, it is loaded. They always bring some of the best teams to this tournament. This year, they're the 3 seed, 7-0, 3-0 in conference, and listen to this margin of victory, winning games by an average of 27 points. How about that for impressive? And they've fared pretty well at the Tosh, 21-11 since 2013. However, they haven't always been able to bring home the trophy. And last year was as good of a shot as any. They made it to the championship before falling at the hands of the unstoppable Glenbard West Hilltoppers. So they were definitely going to be looking for revenge. They lost by 32, but they got their big revenge win against the Hilltoppers this year. They won by 28. So clearly the firepower is still there. They have not missed a beat. And I believe we have Coach Sloan on the phone right now. We do not. Coach Sloan will be on in a little bit, but just taking a look at this LT squad, they lost to Tavari Johnson, who is another college commit, one of the most electric players in the Tosh last year, but they have not missed a beat. Leading by Nick Polanowski, he's going to Penn, averaging 13. Jackson Diego is averaging 12 and 3 as well. We'll hear from Coach Sloan now. Coach, how are you doing today?
Hey guys, I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for joining the show. So looking at your team last year, you guys were 26-6, but last year you guys lost 3 times to Glenbard West, including the championship game. You guys were clearly one of the best and most underrated teams in the state and in this tournament. Do you guys come to the Tosh with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder?
I'm sorry, hang on one second. Sorry about that. I don't know about a chip on our shoulder, but the guys who are seniors, they're very tight-knit, really good chemistry, and, you know, they work really hard and just want to be good players. They want to be a good team. They want to be great.
And, so they show up every day ready to work. And, it's just a good group of kids who plays really hard, and I think they get pretty much the most out of their ability individually and as a group.
Definitely, and as you said, that tight-knit group of seniors, they were the ones that led you to that second place last year. And do you think the experience of finishing second is going to help give your team a little extra motivation and give your team a little extra edge to everyone else in the tournament who didn't make it that far this year?
It definitely can't hurt, having the guys that played. We have Nick Polanowski, Jackson Nego, Graham Smith. Those three current seniors were juniors that played a lot last year. And, that experience will definitely help. I think, I wouldn't say that we necessarily have more motivation than they would if we didn't come in second last year, but the experience will definitely help. Playing in that kind of environment for a semifinal championship game, all that kind of stuff is great experience. They also know that it doesn't matter what you did last year. It doesn't matter what you did last week. It doesn't matter what you did last game. We need to show up and be ready to play on Monday the 26th. Because if we don't, we'll be playing on the consolation side because we have a tough opponent in Batavia.
Makes sense. And just one final question. Last year, you guys lost such a talented player in Tavari Johnson, but yet you guys continue to play winning basketball, going undefeated in your first 7 games. How has your team successfully filled Johnson's shoes this year?
Well, I don't know if we can truly fill his shoes. Tavari was for us such a dynamic player. He's already making a big impact on his college team at Akron. He's cracked the starting lineup either temporarily or permanently. I haven't seen the last couple games, but he obviously was very talented and very athletic and could just do things that a lot of players couldn't do. So we can't necessarily simply replace that. But Jackson Nego is a very, very, very good player, very good point guard. He got a lot of experience last year, and now is taking more of a role as a scorer. Last year, he was kind of more of a backup point guard. He was setting his teammates up. He was, just kind of filling that backup point guard role. Now, he's taken more of a leadership role and being more assertive on the offensive end. And then just by committee with the rest of the team, trying to do some of the things that Tavari would do on the offensive end as far as scoring and defensively, getting deflections or steals or just simply playing solid team defense. I wouldn't say one person is replacing what Tavari did, but, as a group, they're trying to fill in those gaps with what he was able to provide last year.
Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time once again, and best of luck at the tournament.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See you soon.
That's Coach Sloan from LT, everybody. But yeah, just one final note on the Lions. They have everything to be a championship-winning team. Chemistry, experience, shooting, and size. We'll see if they can bring it home. Josh, what can you tell us a little bit about the Batavia Bulldogs?
Well, Batavia is currently a team that is honestly not really performing too well right now. They're 3-7 with 1 win over against a team with over 500 in the Glenbard North Panthers with a score of 61-46. But they've played a really tough schedule with a strength of schedule of 549. That's nearly 6 wins a game per team, and that's in 10 to 11 games. So these teams they're playing good teams. They're playing them pretty close. Wheaton North, a team above 500, close loss. Same with Glenbard West, and same with a less than 10-point loss to Lake Park. All really good teams, and a lot of the Batavia roster is on the football team, and they just made a run all the way to the state championship game, unfortunately losing to Mount Carmel there. Sorry to bring that memory up, Batavia fans, but nonetheless, they're looking to flip a switch here at the Tosh and really start to make a run for the rest of the season. And they're a really young team with 75% juniors, and they can really make they can really make a difference coming on to going into the season, going into the Tosh.
Yes, it should be very exciting to see these two teams. And the final two teams, final game for this section of the bracket is going to be Stagg and Timothy Christian. Guys, what do you know?
Yeah, so with Stagg, Connor Williams is a great player. 13.5 points per game. David Ortiz, also great. 5.5 rebounds per game, as well as 8.4 points per game, but now 48% from three. So those are two really talented juniors that lead the way for Stagg. And yeah, they've really been tearing it up the entire year. So those are two guys that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, especially when it comes to juniors in this tournament. I think they're a problem. 7-4 right now. I think the Tosh is a great opportunity for them to keep that winning going.
Well, yeah, and the other thing, we talked about juniors so much.
Yeah.
It seems like a very junior-heavy tournament this year. It seems that way.
It's younger.
It does
feel
seem
younger.
There's a few seniors that are leading the way, but there's a lot of juniors. Switching things here, going to Timothy Christian before we get Coach Strus on the phone of Stagg. Timothy Christian's entered a little bit of a rebuild, is one way to put it. They lost Ben Vanderwall. Obviously, he was a D1 player last season. So Coach Scott Plazer has two weapons. Kyle Steiner averaging 12, 4, and 4, and Alex Kaiser, who's averaging 8 and 7. It's a small school team. They love to compete. And last year they stepped up and played 2 games in one day. That was obviously the case then. Not the case now. We've kind of moved past the whole kicking teams out because of COVID thing, luckily.
And so we now have Coach Strus. Coach, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, so Coach, you have two very talented juniors in both Williams and Ortiz. Can you tell them, can you tell us a little bit more about them and what they do so well?
Yeah, and thanks for having me, guys. Connor Williams is kind of, he was up with us and started a lot of our games last year as a sophomore varsity. Kind of just makes a lot of plays for us. He can handle the ball, he can shoot it, he can pretty good from the mid-range. And he's definitely come a long way in terms of kind of being a leader of our team. David is, first and foremost, a really good shooter. He's shooting like 45% from three right now, which is phenomenal. So looking to continue to keep him on and get him in good spots to get shots. And he continues to improve as a defender and a rebounder. And both guys being juniors, we hope to keep building and keep getting better here over the next couple of years.
With your brother Max, obviously we talked to him a little bit earlier. He's doing so well in the NBA. Does he ever give you advice as a player to coach, NBA to high school, or does that not really happen?
He doesn't. I pick his brain on some things. Like besides my own team, it's pretty much the only basketball I watch is Miami Heat basketball. So, and a lot of ideas we get to do some things are coming from watching their games, and obviously they have a really strong culture and coaching staff that we try to, I think anyone would be smart to try to emulate. But yeah, if I see something, in one of their games, or if something's going on in one of our games, I might ask him to take a look at things. And yeah, I'd be dumb not to, use his perspective. And I think more so he's a great example for our kids in terms of what hard work can do for you. He's always willing to talk to our guys and share his story, and he's very well respected here amongst our program.
So, Coach, if the chance came to it, you and Max in the front in the driveway 1-on-1, who wins nowadays?
I always say I've never lost. I'm definitely not better, but I'm way smarter. So when we got to the point where I knew he was going to beat me, we stopped playing. So I am undefeated against him. That's for sure. He would absolutely smoke me right now. So perfect record for me.
What is the key for your team to make a great run at the Tosh? Because I feel like there's so many different coaches, so many different strategies, a lot of different styles, and you see so many different players. So to you as a coach, what is like the best? What is the key? What is the key to make that run?
It's a bear. It's 4 straight days of different styles. Just fantastic coaches. who are all going to be prepared, and you're not really going to sneak up on anybody. Everyone's watching film, everyone's courtside scouting games, and doing their best to get their teams ready. So for us, it's just a matter of taking a game plan, coming out, trying to do what we do best, maybe looking at a couple things we can do to take away something from an opponent, but in a one-day prep, and sometimes it's a lot less than that. It's just about what kind of energy, what kind of effort are you bringing on a daily basis on the defensive end, and then using that to try to find a way to get great shots on the offensive end. I think it's a really fun week. It's a really hard week, but it's a week that definitely gets you set for the second half of the season.
Hey, Coach, we really appreciate the time. Best of luck to you guys going forward, just beyond the Tosh as well, but most especially once it comes to facing off against Timothy Christian.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, and you guys do a great job with all this stuff. Thanks for all your hard work, and best of luck to you guys.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Well, that'll be a fun one. I mean, it sounds they got a good ship going over there at Stagg. I like, he just has so much more insight. I think, really, it's clearly a basketball defined family. I like this Stagg team. My dark horse, I think, in this tournament.
And last year's, let's be honest, Stagg wasn't that great either in this tournament.
Yeah,
I think they went 0-4 or 1-3, so it wasn't ideal. And this is, compared to last year, a big step forward for them.
Yeah, no question.
As we wrap up this part of the bracket between Nazareth, Yorkville, Wheaton, North Palatine, Batavia, LT, Timothy Christian, and Stagg, Josh, we're going to start down with you again. Who's your favorite out of this little quadrant?
This is a tough one because I really like the three teams of Yorkville, Palatine, and Lyons Township a lot. They bring a ton to the table in different aspects. They're all really, really good teams, and they're great at different things, but unfortunately, I'd like to pick Yorkville, but I think I'm going to have to go with Lyons, as Lyons is just experience, their size, their skill, and they're the favorites in one of the best conferences in all of Illinois in both football and basketball in the West Suburban Silver Conference. And right now they're leading it. They have multiple in-division wins, in-division blowouts, and as many coaches have said, iron sharpens iron. They've already played tough teams, and now they're going to go on, and they're still going to play tough teams no matter what. And I think they're going to come out victorious in this part of the bracket.
Gavin,
I'm going to go with Yorkville. I think the surprise team, the newcomer to the Tosh, when we talked to Coach Holikovsky, it's very evident that the chemistry is there. They have the size, they have the shooting, you have all the basketball components, but when you're playing like a team, that's how we've seen the winners at the Tosh emerge, when they have the chemistry to go along with the talent. I think Yorkville checks all those boxes.
I was really hoping that Gavin was going to say Lyons as well, because we were just going to hit him with maybe young brains make poor choices. But they only Josh made the choice on the favorite. I'm going to go Stagg, and I think that conversation is a large reason why. I just think 7-4, they got things going. I think if they can hit their threes, the problem is they kind of live and die by that three ball. But if they can get away with a few shots here and there, I like the chances of Stagg coming out of that side.
Stagg is the late game in the South Gym, 7:30. So they will be coming off a full Christmas day and then have a full day of being sluggish. Yeah. That could be a problem.
We've said it for a few years now. Legs matter. I mean,
yes.
You need the energy. You need guys off the bench.
Well, the thing is, will it be sluggish or will it be a little bit more energetic coming off? That's the question. I have to go with Yorkville as well. And I think Palatine's a really good team. I think they're a sleeper too. But I just think Yorkville has all the talent compiled together. And with that, they're playing at a good time. I believe they're at 1 o'clock versus Nazareth. And that's kind of that ideal time a lot of coaches want to be playing at. So I got to take Yorkville out of this one. So that sums it up for the second quadrant. We're going to take another quick break, and then we'll jump into the third quadrant. We're going to lead things off with St. Francis and Glenbrook South, and we'll cover the Campbell Gym side of the bracket. That's coming up next. Welcome back. We're going to get underway with the third quadrant of it. We're going to start off with that is St. Francis and Glenbrook South. Coach Ralston from Glenbrook South will join us here in just a moment. But let's start with St. Francis before we jump into Glenbrook South. So St. Francis, Coach Aaron Dwyer, has a program coming off a sectional championship. They're led by Aaron Cook and a freshman, Gavin Mueller. Now this is St. Francis team. They lost a pretty good amount of talent. Sebastian Miller is gone. TJ McMillan's playing football at the University of Illinois. And the Spartans are coming into Tosh hot as they won their last 4 games. and this was as of a few days ago too. This is a team that will play a ton of fight. You know, in St. Francis, they got a man-to-man that GBS run, or they're going up against what is a man-to-man defense, what Glenbrook South runs. So they've obviously got their work cut out for them. So let's talk about Glenbrook South a little bit.
Yeah, let's just name a few things as why this team is dangerous. Last year finished 33-3.
A lot of those kids are gone.
But they won their
That's
Thanksgiving.
true. That's
they
true.
won their Thanksgiving tournament. Coach Ralston has over 400 career wins. I mean, this team is ready to go. R.J. Davis and Gavin are both at 13 points per game. You know, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of handle. You know, I think the brighter lights of the Tosh. Obviously, it might be homers when we're saying that, but I do think it's just a different level. So I mean, they're going to have their work cut out with them. I think St. Francis is an interesting team. I think they start to find their identity as the tournament goes on. But I do think that you know, Glenbrook South is going to be a potential problem for many teams in this tournament.
Well, and that's the other thing with St. Francis. The last two tournaments, they usually always find it around the second game because they struggle in the first game, but that second game they find it just like that, and they're really fun to watch. And you really hope that's the case again this year. And I think Glenbrook South, I mean, they can handle it. They played in Wintrust Arena last season against Curie, I believe. So I think they can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it'll be interesting. I just do think that, you know, experience matters. I know, obviously, from a player standpoint, it might not be there this year. However, I just think when you have a coach of that, Coach Ralston, I do think that's going to be a problem for many teams.
Yeah, and speaking of Coach Ralston, I believe we have him on the line. No, not right now.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so we might be able to get him on here in just a minute, hopefully. I haven't gotten a thumbs up or thumbs down if that's the case. So we aren't getting him?
All right.
Are we getting him? Yes? All right, we are going to get him. So for the next few minutes, we're just going to, you know, stall a little bit. But let's jump a little bit more into Glenbrook South. They lost a lot of talent last year. That was a team, they were number 2 or number 3 in the state for a long period of time.
Yeah, I just, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things where, you know, I mean, you know, they might have seen more of what Glenbrook South has done this year in terms of, you know, margin victory and things like that. But I do think that, you know, if you have a coach who has been under, you know, pressure when it comes to tournaments, when it comes to handling players, I think this is one of those things that does certainly pay off if you're Coach Ralston, who I believe we do now have on the line. Coach, you there?
If so, we can't really.
Coach, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Perfect.
Hey, just want to say congratulations on your induction into the IBCA Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. Still not sure if I really deserve that, but it's a nice accolade.
Hey, we're addressing the elephant in the room. Hey, so you already won your Thanksgiving championship at Palatine, excuse me. What will it take for your team to win the Tosh and add to that impressive resume?
Well, you know, it's a buzzsaw tournament, but we take things. Our approach is very much focused on one game at a time. Look at what's right in front of us and try to take care of our business. Our kids are, as coaches, we try to prepare them as best we can for our upcoming opponent. We do advanced scouting to try to stay ahead of the curve. But our kids, we just try to focus on, you know, what are the three things we need to accomplish to be able to win a game and or best position us to get a win. You know, obviously, I'm of the mindset that when you're looking at a tournament like this, and it's the first time I've ever been a part of a 32-team tournament, if you can get through your first 3 games, you know, anything can happen. It's kind of like the state tournament. If you can win your first 3 games, anything can happen.
Coach, last year you finished 33-3. You had so much talent. And this year you guys are doing, you know, perfectly fine without all the talent you lost. Cooper Nord was one of those guys that you lost. How have you been able to be doing so well this season?
Well, I would argue I think we could still be better. But quite honestly, you know, we returned, you know, 4 key players that were on last year's team. So it's not like these guys are new to playing against tough competition, and they know how we do things at Glenbrook South. They understand our culture. They understand, you know, what it takes for us to be successful and to play at a high level. R.J. Davis, Gavin Marr were both starters on last year's team, and they've kind of filled those roles as our leaders. And then you throw in Nick Taylor, who is just an unbelievable athlete and basketball player, and Nate Kasher, he is a sniper. He is a really great shooter. Those four have done a tremendous job of continuing our program culture and keeping us playing at a high level.
Hey, Coach, so this being your guys' first year at the Tosh, what do you kind of tell your team when it comes to handling the pressure that comes with that 32-team format in this tournament?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to focus on that it's a 32-team tournament because most of the teams we're not going to see. So we're just going to, as I said, my focus is going to be we got Wheaton St. Francis on Monday, and pretty much what we did today in practice was to work on the things that we'll need to do to be successful with that. But, obviously, with the weather coming up, it's going to throw a curveball at us for preparing for next week. We've kind of got to be ready for all things, right? We got to be ready for potential zones that we might see. Can we be day in and day out 5 straight days? Hopefully 5 straight days.
Coach, you play a tough switching man-to-man defense. We're talking about defense for a little bit here. That defense has given a lot of opponents fits. What makes that defense so difficult to play against? Is it just the quickness, or is there something else that we don't know?
I know what it is. We run a lot of pack line principles where we want to try to take away dribble penetration, and I think the switching allows us to pressure the ball on the perimeter and yet still try to keep people down to take away lanes to the basket. And our philosophy is to kind of treat things where we can keep the ball on the perimeter and contest 3-point shots, and at the same time do a great job of trying to pressure the ball as best we can. And it's allowed us the ability of, at times we might not switch on a certain player. We might decide that we're going to lock in on one guy. And I think you're right. It gives teams it's hard to run good sets against it because, we scout it and we practice how we defend it. And our kids have gotten really good at it.
Hey, Coach, we appreciate your time once again. Congratulations on that recognition and joining the Hall of Fame. We look forward to seeing you and the rest of your Glenbrook South squad here at the Tosh on the 26th.
We're really looking forward to this opportunity. We're grateful to be a part of such a great tournament. I would argue the best tournament in the state. So we're really going to enjoy being a part of this.
Appreciate it, Coach. Enjoy the rest of your day and happy holidays.
To you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, tell you what, that might be a pretty dangerous team there when it comes down to it.
An early morning game too. It's something to be prepared about.
Yeah,
Starts early.
I don't want to bring that up.
9 a.m.
Hey, so early game day after Christmas. What do you think?
Moving down this list, Hinsdale South and Waubonsie Valley. Josh and Gavin, tell us a little bit about those teams.
Well, we're going to start off with Hinsdale South, a team that last year went 11-19, finished 4th in that West Suburban's Gold Conference. Unfortunately lost to St. Lawrence in the regional semis in a close matchup, but they're looking to keep momentum moving forwards and get to a winning record this year. So far it hasn't happened for them as they are 4-7. Not really looking too great so far this year, but they do have a couple of sophomores leading the charge and an experienced group of forwards who have all had a good amount of playing time last year. So this team is definitely poised to try and turn their season around at the Tosh, which always happens around here at York. And I'm pretty sure we actually have Coach Moretti on the phone here. Coach Moretti, can you hear us? Looks like we do not have Coach Moretti with us today. But moving on with Hinsdale South, they really had their best win so far has been Leiden with a 4-point win at Leiden, or at home versus Leiden. And last year versus the Tosh, unfortunately, didn't really go too well as they lost to Lake Forest and lost to Palatine. But this team is young, and they got a pair of sophomore guards who've been really good in Aiden Ferreira as well as Jack Wegas, respectively averaging 10.4 points per game and then 14.3 points per game. And Wegas has really blown up a couple of times for 20-plus point games, and especially was named in all-tournament in their Thanksgiving tournament. And this is a team that's going to fight. This team has forward depth. This team is really going to try their hardest to make their mark on the Tosh this year, whether it's moving on in the winner's bracket or the consolation bracket. They're going to try and win multiple games this year.
Yeah, and they will be going up against the Waubonsie Valley Warriors. They come in with a record of 7-4, and it's been a tale of two halves of the season for the Warriors. Starting out 6-0, however, losing 4 of their last 5 games going into the Tosh, so a little bit of a headache there.
So then, now we actually do have Moretti on the phone. Moretti, Coach Moretti, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the time and a little bit of a last-minute notice call with you, but I'm glad you're able to come on. Can you tell us a little bit how your perspective of your season has gone so far?
We've been kind of up and down. We are a very young team. We've been starting 2 sophomores and a freshman. So you be hard-pressed to find a team that had to start with more difficult competition. When you look at starting with Curie and RB and Burlington Central, we've been playing some pretty top-ranked teams here to start our season. So we've definitely taken our lumps.
Definitely. As you said, those are some extremely tough teams. And once again, as you said, led by 2 sophomores and a freshman. How are you looking to the future of this season with their experience going against great teams like you just mentioned and the Tosh here? How do you think that their experience through this process and will help your season and your push for a push towards the top of the conference and in future seasons for the program?
Yeah, that's a good question. We also played Proviso East, who is a very good team right now in that stretch. And, they're obviously the favorites to win our conference, but certainly all of the experience against these top teams, and the Tosh will be no different. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be my first experience actually coaching in this tournament. It can only help us. It can only help us grow and get better.
And, where are you especially hoping to look for your team to improve to hopefully when you see Proviso West or defending champions Willowbrook later in the season, where would you like your team to be able to really make a step up so then you can challenge those teams and, get a win or 2 out of those games?
We really just got to score a little bit more. We need to score a little bit more against pressure, especially. I feel that'll come. The more that we experience it, the better we're going to get at it.
Well, wonderful, great answers, and thank you so much for your time, and we wish you luck at the Tosh next week, and happy holidays.
Hey, same to you guys. Thank you.
That was coach of Hinsdale South. The Warriors, going back to Waubonsie Valley, coached by Andrew Switzer. Like you said, 6-0 to start the season. They beat Batavia on the road, who's in this Tosh tournament. However, losing 4 of the last 5 games, it's not really the momentum that you want going into such an important tournament like the Tosh. The Warriors are known for their elite ball press defense that's become more and more popular at the high school level. They're led by Jackson Langendorf and Trey Blissett, but both of these guys can pass, shoot really well. They're good scorers. They can rebound. It's just like all around really, really elite. When talking with Coach Switzer, he said that some of their strengths are their ability to rebound and their athleticism, which really helps their great defense. But he really wants to see more consistency because he knows that it's going to be a long tournament and each matchup is going to be unique and tough. So the consistency, I'm sure all coaches would want to see. And we are actually going to talk to Coach Switzer live. Coach, how you doing today? Are you there? And Coach Switzer is no longer with us. So we will see. You know, obviously a very talented team this Warriors squad is, but losing 4 of the last 5, if the coach can get his team refocused, regroup, it's a morning game, that's never easy. It'll be a testament to him and the team as a whole if they can make it deep run, because we know they are capable of it. So another interesting matchup. Now we do have Coach Switzer. Coach, can you hear us?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Coach. Thanks for joining us. Just wanted to ask a couple of questions. Your ball press defense has been very, very good in turning defense into offense. What's been the key to establishing such a deadly defense?
So I would tell you, I think being year 2 in the system, I think our kids have gotten a lot better at kind of understanding where they should be and the kind of activity and energy that we're looking for. But I'll be honest with you, our last couple games, it has not been deadly. But I do know, and I've seen it from our group, like we will get back to where we need to be. And hopefully that comes next week.
Absolutely. Speaking of the recency, you guys come into the Tosh losing 4 of your last 5. How do you get the team to refocus and regroup just to ensure success at the Tosh?
So, I mean, honestly, a couple good things for us. Number one, have a great group of guys. You know, obviously, they were rattled a little bit, and anyone would be after how we kind of lost 2 of those. We had 2 heartbreakers a couple weeks ago. But I know this group, and I know they'll bounce back. And I also think us just having a week off, able to focus on ourselves and get back to kind of our bread and butter, I think hopefully it should help us moving forward. But I have no doubt that these kids' minds are in the right place. So no matter what the results are, I know we'll keep working.
Definitely. The talent is evident, and the rest will be very important as well. One final question. It's an early morning game at 10:30. How do you prepare this team for a morning game at the Tosh? Because sometimes teams kind of fall into the trap and kind of come out sluggish.
I mean, so number one, we'll definitely do a morning walkthrough beforehand, make sure we're loose going into it. But as much as I don't want to, we will be having a little practice on Christmas Eve, so we're not giving too much time off. But, you know, I mean, it's definitely a tough situation, but the thing I would say is, you know, there's no excuses, because I know for a fact that all the other teams that are playing in the morning are in the exact same situation. So it is what it is. Anytime you get a chance to compete, you got to relish it.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck to you and your squad, Coach Switzer. We'll see you after Christmas.
All right, I appreciate it. You guys have a good one.
So now we're going to do the rest of this show. Gavin Connolly's not going to be able to join us for a little bit as he had to head out, and that's perfectly okay. We finished Glenbard North and St. Pat's. We got both coaches on the phone. We're going to start with Glenbard's North's head coach. Coach, are you there?
Yes.
Great, excellent. Well, Coach, welcome to the Jack Tosh. It's the first season that Glenbard North is doing it in a number of seasons. So, first of all, how excited are you to be a part of this tournament this season?
Yeah, we're really excited to be part of the tournament. You guys do a great job over there, run extremely well, and obviously got loads of talent, so we're excited to be a part of it.
Definitely. And, Coach, your team is led by JJ, your son, who's averaging 17 points a game. How has he really stood out this year and made a name for himself and start to really put those points up on the board?
Yeah, JJ Hernandez is a really good player. He's really done a nice job over the offseason of adding more to his game. He's become an outside shooter, too. He's got tons of athletic ability, great length, plays the right way. So he's done a really nice job taking a step forward in his overall game as a junior.
Hey, Coach, you guys have a pretty tough opponent in St. Pat's in your opening round, but how will a tough team like this kind of help you guys, regardless of what side of the bracket you're on, kind of going forward in this tournament?
Yeah, well, we knew joining Tosh that any opponent we had would be tough. Like I said earlier, there's just loads of competitive teams and talent in the tournament, so we're excited for the opportunity. You know, it's going to be a good game to compete in, and we look forward to the opportunity to play.
All right, Coach, we appreciate your time. We understand you have to get to practice, so we'll let you go to practice and do your job as a basketball coach. But thank you for your time and joining us on the show today.
All right, thanks a lot.
That is Coach Ton from Glenbard North, that is. Joining us here in just a moment is going to be Coach Bailey of St. Patrick's. And we talked about St. Patrick's a little bit, but the wins over Loyola and Marist have really sold you.
Wow, yeah, this team has been impressive. They're extremely hot. One of the hardest schedules so far in the tournament. 660 strength of schedule. Really, really good. And as you said, wins over Loyola and Marist, they're at these schools. They're playing away, and that's really going to give them experience going to the Tosh, because they're not going to be playing at St. Patrick's. They're going to play here at York, and that's a bit of a trek, and a few teams will be closer and possibly have more fans, so it could be like an away environment, and that's something that the experience will really help out. In the matchup between these two teams, the Panthers haven't really fared really well against Tosh teams. They have another chance on Thursday against Wheaton North, but a loss to Batavia as well as, but a win over Glenbard South, but a loss to Glenbard West in that Glenbard Thanksgiving roundabout tournament. So they're really looking to change some things and start to really compete in their division. And moving forwards, they're a good team with that star of J.J. Hernandez, but the 1-3-1 defense of St. Patrick's is really going to try and limit that very well.
Well, speaking of St. Patrick's, we should have Coach Bailey of Patrick's on the phone. Coach Bailey, are you there?
I am, yes.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us right now on the show. You guys are coming in as a pretty, safe to say, underrated team. How do you have a chip on your shoulder heading into these next few games at York?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on here today. I appreciate it. And you know what? We played some pretty good basketball here in the last few weeks, but listen, York is a gauntlet, okay? It's 5 games in 5 days against quality teams and quality coaches. It's almost survival of the fittest a little bit. It's kind of like the ESCC. The ESCC conference, we play 18 league games, and we kind of eat our own, as we say in our league here a little bit. So it's something that we're used to, playing quality competition day in and day out, and we're looking forward to it. I think we do come in with a little chip on our shoulder here a little bit. We come in playing some pretty good basketball, but we know, starting with Glenbard North and the Hernandez kid, we have our work cut out for us.
Hey, yeah, Coach, and we talked about it. I mean, after the bracket came out, you guys have definitely gone a little bit on a run since then. And we highlighted 2 guys, Andrew Yenny and E.J. Breland, here before we got on the phone with you. So, but who are a few guys that folks attending these games should keep an eye on? Kind of that, that Charlie Hustle character and so forth.
Yeah, so EJ and Andrew have been our anchors right here, but I really think the key to our team is the 2 junior kids we have, AJ Thomas and Harper Krolak. Both these kids played last year as sophomores, at a pretty good clip for us on a super sectional team last year, so they're experienced. They've played in big games, and I think that kind of gives us a solid 4 players with Andrew and EJ, and then Harper Krolak and AJ Thomas. But really, I think the streak that we've been on a little bit has been really 3 seniors. But these kids last year didn't play very much for us as juniors, but they have certainly stepped up here really the all season here, and just do St. Pat's senior basketball things. Take charges, loose balls, rebounds, hit some open shots, defend, play for the team. So, James Clay, Nathan Otero, and Brendan Hecker, those have been 3 seniors that have just kind of come in, filled their role off the bench, and have just given us quality minutes.
And, speaking of those quality minutes, they've really been put to use recently. After the disappointing loss to Nazareth, you guys have gone on quite the incredible run, beating 5 straight teams over 500, and most impressively over Loyola, Marian Catholic, and Marist. What sort of things, execution, preparation did you guys do that really helped you go on that run, beating all 3 of those teams on the road?
Yeah. I think I think it was just we just stay the course. We just do the things day in and day out that we do every day in our program. In our Thanksgiving tournament, I think we played some good competition there. We stubbed our toes against a good Nazareth team. I mean, They've done a great job against us the last few years. And to our kids' credit, I think we just stayed the course, keep doing the things that we do. We understand it's a long season, and it's just kind of spiraled into a good streak for us right here.
All right, Coach Bailey, we appreciate your time. 7-2, we're really looking forward to seeing you guys play this next upcoming week at the Jack Tosh. You got a special team on your hands, that's for sure.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and we're looking forward to the tournament. And like I said, it's a gauntlet. It's 5 games in 5 days, and it's the best tournament around. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, top to bottom, it's the best tournament around. It's well run. The people are so nice when you go there, and it's just a great experience for everybody over here at St. Pat. So we appreciate everything you guys do over at York for us.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Coach Bailey. Have a happy holidays, and we'll see you on Monday.
Oh.
So that does it in terms of St. Patrick's and Glenbard North. Let's switch gears now. So Gavin, let's talk about Rolling Meadows and Montini. Obviously, we know Rolling Meadows.
Well, Rolling Meadows is a team. We have a strong profile on them.
Right. We've known about Rolling Meadows since what? We were juniors here in 2019?
Our first, I think our first really, we got a pretty good dose of them when they played York here in 2019. Obviously, that team led by Nate Shockey. And I think York won that one.
They did.
That was a really, really fun one to be a part of. I know on the call that one was real special. We know Coach Katovich very well. Again, dear friend of the program. I think it's interesting with Montini especially. Danny Preston, really great shooter, right? Mm-hmm. Especially from beyond the arc. Broncos do play a 2-3 zone, trying to slow things down with Rolling Meadows, but they're going to have their work cut out of them, especially Cam Christie.
Well, the thing is with Rolling Meadows, you mentioned Cam Christie. He's a 4-star. He's committed to Minnesota. He's a truly talented player. We saw him as a freshman, and we just knew he was going to be a star. He's always been a star in this tournament. But he's not the only one. You have Mark Nikolic Wilson, who's the big man. He is in the paint for the Mustangs, and he is another guy. Last year, I want to believe he was a sophomore. So this year he's a junior, at least is what I believe on, who's going to be playing for them. And last year he was so talented just down low, good right hand, could finish in the paint, big body. He doesn't really throw an elbow. He'll just use his pure muscle and get you out of the way.
One of those things about Mark in particular, I think he had a really great game. I want to say it was against Lake Forest last year.
I believe so.
That helped them advance. And he wasn't really a guy that we were kind of keeping an eye on until then. I want to say they played Lemont as well. He's great with his feet, really strong feet. I think for his size, it's impressive how quickly he moves. And I think Mark in particular is that guy who is one of the more underrated players in this tournament.
I do think he is someone that could, be a underdog for tournament MVP. Yeah. A lot of people are going to have their eyes on Mark Nikolic Wilson throughout the course of this tournament now. Like you mentioned, Coach Katovich, friend of the program, should be getting him on relatively soon. Not the case, so we'll get back to him here in just a minute. All right, now joining us another very special guest, another NBA player, former Jack Tosh player as well, who made the all-tournament team at least once. Max Christie is on the line, Rolling Meadows grad. Max, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Well, Max, thank you for joining us. It's obviously very special. We talked to Max Strus a little bit earlier. We all got a couple questions that we want to ask you about, what it is playing like in the NBA and what it was like playing in the Jack Tosh. So, Josh, you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. Max, thanks for your time. This is a huge honor. It's super cool to talk to you. And I want to ask you a would you rather question, or which did you prefer? Did you prefer being triple teamed at the Tosh, or do you prefer being guarded by players like Mikal Bridges?
Getting guarded by players like Mikal Bridges. Triple teams are a whole different beast. There's not much you can do, but in a one-on-one scenario with a good defender, you could still come out on top for sure.
Thank you.
Hi, Max. Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you on your success in high school and then at Michigan State, now with the Lakers. Very impressive. My question is, every year the Tosh produces extreme individual talents, a lot of high-end D1 recruits. How do you think playing against players like these, players that were committed to colleges, game in and game out at the Tosh, how did that help your high school career and help you get to this point?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Tosh is arguably the best Christmas tournament in the state, and so playing against, a lot of great talent, like you said, and a lot of Division I basketball players, it's always good to play against the best. You know what they say, iron sharpens iron, and so when you're playing against the best, you have no option but to improve. And playing against the best players is always a good way to do that. And so, being a part of the Tosh for 3 out of my 4 years, with the senior year being COVID, but playing in that tournament was always a fun time. I always look forward to that around Christmas time, and so it was a great time, especially playing against a lot of other Division I athletes.
Hey Max, just addressing the elephant in the room. Well, especially when it comes to the GOAT debate. I mean, not all players. Everybody on this phone calls from Chicago, but what is it like learning under a guy like LeBron James and being in that locker room with a player of his stature as a rookie?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really get much better than the situation that I'm in, especially, being a young 19-year-old rookie with being on the Los Angeles Lakers of all teams, and let alone having veterans like Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverly, having those guys in the locker room, having those guys around me every single day. I've definitely taken a lot from them, in all facets of life and in basketball. And so particularly in LeBron's case, obviously him being arguably the best player of all time, just being around him, seeing how he carries himself, and just observing the way he goes about things. And, I've learned a lot from him too. So it's definitely a really, really good situation for me to be in as a young rookie, learning from the veterans like I listed earlier.
Max, it's obviously a privilege to play in this tournament, is what a lot of coaches say. You played with your brother Cam, who's back again playing. This is the 3rd time he's in this tournament. How special was it able to play with your brother, and how much would you say of an honor it was to play with him and play in a tournament of this magnitude?
Yeah, I mean, playing with your brother, or any sibling for that matter, is definitely a really, really cool experience, and I got to experience that for 2 years. My junior year and his freshman year, we played at the Tosh, and playing with him in this type of tournament, in this this big tournament with a lot of other Division I players and a lot of other great teams. It was really cool just to sort of go through those fights and those games with him. And then going into my senior year and his sophomore year in our COVID season, it was good because, we won every single game. We were 15-0, won the MSL championship. So we won a lot of games together. It was definitely something that I'll always cherish, those 2 years that we had together playing.
Well, Max, we thank you for your time. Means a lot to all of us. Continue to do big things with the Lakers, and it's really great that you're able to join us. We really thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
I can't believe that Christie's our age. That's unreal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He's going to have a really, really great career.
Yes, he will.
So now joining us is Coach Kadovich of Rolling Meadows. Coach Kadovich, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you guys today?
We're doing fine. We're glad to have you back on the show. Obviously, last year you joined us on the show, talked to us multiple times after games. So last year you guys finished in 3rd. You made a great run, excellent run. You returned a lot. And we were just talking about this. You returned Cam Christie and Mark Nikolic Wilson. Is this your year to win it all, in your opinion?
I would hope we can compete for it, but there's just so many other great teams in there. When you even look at how it had to be seeded for the tournament, it was really difficult to do because there's so many good teams. Most of the teams have winning records, and so you just look at the bracket, and there's really no easy games the entire length of the tournament, which is what makes it so great and so fun all at the same time.
Hey, Coach, Cameron Christie is one of the best players in the state right now. Can you tell us about the other weapons that you guys have on that squad?
Sure. Well, you had mentioned Mark. He's a really, really nice player. He's very unselfish. His game is similar. I'm not comparing him to him or saying he's the same player, but similar to Cam Krupwig. He's a big post player who's really smart, passes the ball well. He's averaging a double-double, also averaging about 6 assists per game, so he's really good. Then Fetso Tirov is another senior. We're hoping he can play in the tournament right now. He rolled his ankle against Hersey, but he had been averaging 17 points a game, so we're hoping at some point he gets back for the tournament. And then we have a sophomore, Ian Militich, who started last year as a freshman, another senior, Foster Ogbonna, who does a little bit of everything, and then 2 nice pieces off the bench, and then a sophomore, Jack Duffer, and then a senior, Jake Repek right now.
Last year for you, Coach, it was a really good run. Like I mentioned, you guys got all the way to 3rd in this tournament. This year, you're the number 1 seed in the tournament overall. Is there a little bit more added pressure to being the number 1 seed? Kind of that expectation of well, we're supposed to win it. And if so, how do you coach to maybe a few other coaches, but mostly the players, how to handle that pressure? Because obviously, let's be honest, you guys have, the last number of years with the amount of talent that has been through this program, you've been in the bright lights a lot.
Sure. Well, first, I wouldn't say there's a clear-cut number one seed. I think there's 5 or 6 teams that legitimately could have been the number one seed. So from that standpoint, I don't think we're heads and tails above everybody in the field, that's for sure. And then the second thing is, our guys are kind of used to getting everybody's best effort. We know we have a giant target on our back, and the guys, they kind of embrace that. They enjoy that. They're not afraid of it. They certainly don't take anybody for granted, and they don't take anyone lightly. But I think they've been in enough games in the last few years of significance that they kind of rise up to that challenge rather than shy away from it.
Once again, Coach, thank you for your time. And I would like to ask, so you've coached now a top player in the state for the past 6 years, going from Max to Cam. How does that affect your coaching style and coaching system from, I assume in years prior to that, you didn't necessarily have the ranked number one player in the state every year. Which ways do you change it up to try and alleviate pressure from them and really let them be able to expand and play to their fullest potential?
Well, first of all, it makes me really, really smart as a coach because, things we run work. So that's the first thing. No, those guys are obviously phenomenal, once-in-a-generation talent-type players. Obviously, Max being in the NBA, I think Cameron's headed that direction as well. But the nice thing about our team and our program is we have kids that have grown up together since 4th grade, where these kids have played together, have known each other since kindergarten, so there's no jealousy. They work well together. They're friends. They live close to each other. So it's not like, we're putting together a free agent class every year where we have to try to mix personalities. They kind of know what each other's strengths are, and they also know, what each kid is like. So that helps with bonding especially, but it also, there's no jealousy when Max or Cameron gets a lot of attention.
Hey, Coach, we talked to Max earlier, and he just talked about how great it was, getting an opportunity to play with Cam, and obviously, Max being a senior and Cam getting a lot of playing time as a sophomore. Is there any, quick story, because I know you're pressed for time, but was there any story, your favorite story about coaching them or anything like that kind of stuck out when it came to coaching the Christie brothers?
Yeah, actually, I think what was really kind of a cool moment in the year of COVID, we were playing in the championship game for our conference. We hadn't lost yet with the shortened season, so that game was sort of, in a way, like the state championship game. And Max was getting double-teamed and triple-teamed. And in the first half, he really carried us. And then in the second half, Barrington kind of clamped down on him, and then Cameron took over. So as corny as it sounds, it was almost like the passing of the torch between Max and Cameron. Max led us the first half of the game, Cameron led us the second half, and I think that was a cool moment. And the other one, I think, would be the first game, Cameron's freshman year, where at the Thanksgiving tournament, literally the first game of the year, Cameron got a steal, threw it up to Max for a dunk, and I know those two enjoyed it, and for sure their parents did as well. That had to be a really cool moment for their family.
Coach, thank you for your time. Obviously, it means a lot. Obviously, we're hoping that we get to see you in every day of the next 5 days. You have a really talented team, and I'm sure you are extremely proud of your guys. So we really thank you for your time. Enjoy the next few days with you and your family, and then we're looking forward to talking to you on Monday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys too. You guys do an amazing job. It's fun to be there. You guys help make the tournament the best in the state. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Coach Kadovich. We've gotten a lot of props for doing a great job. So, I guess we're doing something right. I guess so.
Friend of the program.
I guess so. So that'll do it. So Gavin, going back to you and I on this one, Rolling Meadows and Montini, I think we are truly in for what should be a pretty good treat, to say the least.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a showcase of. I don't want it. Back down at school, it's called rat poison, and this can be a quote that can be rat poison for Montini. But I do think this opening round game is going to be a showcase of Rolling Meadows' talent, because I just do think that they're just too strong. They're just too much for a team like Montini.
And we're going to get a good idea. We're going to see a lot of talent too. Yeah. We're going to see a lot of talent. So we're going to take a quick little break. Our predictions with Gavin will come up next, And then after that, we'll move on into the fourth one. So we'll take a short little break. Predictions are next. So now we wrap up this third quadrant. Guys, list your picks. Josh, again, we're going to start with you on this one.
This one, I'm going to have to go with a team that is an underdog, and they're going to make a run with it, and that's St. Patrick's Shamrocks. Really faced tough schedule so far. They're going to keep moving forwards, and they're going to be able to have a couple upsets going here and really make a run at the title, I think. And they're a great team, battle-tested, and that's what you need going into the Tosh.
All right. No Rolling Meadows pick. I'm going to have to agree with you there. I'm going with Glenbrook South. You talked about it, a Hall of Fame coach. He's seen everything. That experience is going to come very much in handy for this Tosh tournament. He's going to have his team well prepared for any sort of defense, anything that they can face, and they fared pretty well with losing their two superstars, Cooper Nord and Nick Martinelli. I like Glenbrook South to get hot and go far in this tournament.
For the second time, Josh's pick was worse than Gavin's. I'm going to have to go Rolling Meadows. Definitely. Proven.
Unnecessary.
Make it nice and quick.
I think that's a pretty easy. It's a pretty safe pick. So we're going to go with Rolling Meadows.
Yep.
Me and Gavin both will go with Rolling Meadows on this one. So that we'll take a break now, and then we'll jump into the fourth quadrant. Coming up next, we'll talk about Downer South and Lemont when we come back. So now we start the fourth and final quadrant of the Jack Tosh Holiday Classic. We're without Gavin Connolly for the next little bit. He had to go do something. That's perfectly fine. So let's talk about Downer South and Lemont. They're the header leading off of the fourth quadrant. And before we talk about Lemont, talk about Downer South really quickly.
Yeah, so Downer South, I think it's interesting. So Coach Zach Miller's Mustangs are going to be interesting. Given their opponents' problems, they've won their last 3 of 4. We talk about how important streaks are coming into this tournament. Mm-hmm. I think that's something made of note. But they played a really, really tough schedule and preparing for the Tosh. I think that's something that might help. Especially going up against a team like Lemont, who is 10-0 undefeated, is the key to the success here.
So before we talk to Lemont, or we get talk fully about Lemont, we have their coach Rick Runnis on the line. At least I believe so, or at least he's getting there. But some quick notes about Lemont. It is the two twins, Rokas and Montes Castillo. We talked about them last year. We couldn't tell them apart. We had to tell them apart based off of shoes.
Yeah, shoes.
So good luck with that when you have a Lemont game to call. They are identical, and they lost their best player, who is transferred to St. Rita, Noyes Indricitis, who is obviously a high-level basketball player, number 3 in the class for 2024. Are you going to say something?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that this Lemont squad was really underrated last year. Obviously, they are this year as well. This is the first game. I think Brad Underwood was in the gym when they played Rolling Meadows. It's a special team. They got a special program. Obviously, Indricitis is a big name. He's a guy who obviously is very valuable to that program. But, you can't complain about this record. So.
Some other notes about Lemont is Rokas is averaging 21 points per game, and Montes is averaging 16, so we're a little bit off with Runnis being on right now, which is perfectly fine. I talked to Coach Wostarski from Lemont, former York assistant, good friend of us here, and he said it would be great to have back Noyes Indricitis, but, things happen, and that's perfectly understandable. And then he talked about the Castillos. He said they really do a good job complementing each other, and I feel like that's what you need is a really good backcourt, two kids that complement each other really well. And I think what helps is they also live together being identical twins. So, that's got to help. There's a few other players. They start 5 seniors. The 3 other seniors are Bella Vicious, Miles Beecham, and Connor Murray. And he said, all of them right there is a very big help. And then a few juniors, Noah Tamaris and Ryan Runnis are also there. And I believe, speaking of Runnis, we have Rick Runnis. We have Coach Brost online from Bolingbrook.
Actually like to be Rick. That would be awesome. Even though I am Rob.
So jumping around here, we're going to talk about Bolingbrook for a little bit. Coach Brost, thank you for being on the line, and thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate not only the Jack Tosh tournament, but everything you guys do to make it one of the best tournaments, not only in Illinois, but I think in the country.
Right, and I know you told me a few days ago your dad will be watching from Iowa, so that's good to hear. And we've talked about Bolingbrook while being off camera for a little bit, and what I said is you guys have done a very good job of getting to day 5 in both years you've been active in the Tosh, and you guys have been a big addition into it. So you won it all in 2019. You were semifinalists last season. How does this team stack up to the past teams of 2019 and 2021?
Well, I mean, in 2019 when we won the Tosh, we had a pretty experienced group coming back, and we won 29 games that season. So really successful season that obviously got cut short by the COVID, stuff. And then skipping a year and then coming back last year, that team ended up making the Final Four at the Tosh, but then we made the Final Four in Class 4A as well. So that team won 30 games, and so it's hard to compare teams, and it's I don't like to do that per se. This team has some a high level of talent on it, but we've been a little banged up and injured so far this season. So I think as we get more healthy, our team will become better and better. And we're hopefully going to be a little more healthy come December 26th than we are even today.
Yeah, Coach, and this next question here completely warrants you can find out, along with everybody else, response on the 26th, so I wouldn't be offended if that was the answer. But, you highlighted you've had some injuries early on. Is everyone healthy, or is that still going to be a concern kind of heading into Monday, or is that kind of, wait and see?
Yeah, it's still a concern, and we were without 3 of our top 6 or 7 guys up until about last week, and we're slowly getting them back. I think Aries will be back for sure by the 26th, and then Donovan Younger is kind of work in progress as far as his return and how healthy he is. Even if he comes back, he might not be completely healthy. So, and Tori's coming off of pneumonia, and then he had the flu on top of that, so he was out for about 2.5 weeks there. So, at any rate, we're just trying to get our guys all healthy, and it's kind of like having a new team and kind of like starting the season over when you have everybody at practice, and so. That's a good thing for us, and we're hoping to become even more healthy as the 26th gets closer, and then obviously as we move forward in the Tosh as the tournament goes along.
And Coach, as you've been talking about everyone not being healthy, in a way, do you think the experience that these kids who typically wouldn't be getting as much playing time as they are now will help you moving along throughout the course of this long season, and of course, the tournament as your players start to get back healthier, these bench guys who have been really in a bigger role throughout the course of these past couple of weeks? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I think the minutes that a lot of our other guys are having to play, and extended minutes, is helpful for them to gain experience. And obviously our schedule is a tough one, and then obviously the Tosh being one of the top tournaments in the state, there's really, really talented teams there as well. So I think you bring up a good point, and we're a type of program where it's next man up mentality, and there's no excuses. And we can talk about the injuries and getting healthy all we want, but the fact of the matter is when there's a game to be played, we have to be prepared and we have to be ready, and that's what we plan to do on the 26th as well.
Hey, Coach, Keon Alexander is a real presence, inside, averaging 4 blocks per game. Do you feel like this team is stronger defensively compared to last year's team? I know you don't like comparing teams, as you mentioned, but do you feel like that might be the case?
I think, Keon in particular provides us with some size and some shot blocking ability. Obviously he was on our team last year as well, so he provided that last year as well. So I think, we can get after it defensively.
this year with ball pressure and some other things that we could do that helps our offense as well. So, I think defensively we can get after teams if we need to, and that's what we do a lot of the time. And so sometimes our defense is a catalyst to our offense for sure.
Coach, one last question before we let you go. Your defensive pressure has always created offensive opportunities for your team. We've seen that in the last 2 tournaments, and that's kind of been your style of play over the last number of years. Are you deep enough this year to play that style? And I know health is kind of a factor in that you haven't had Donovan Younger for almost the entire season. Would you agree with that you're deep enough to do that again or as talented?
Yeah, I think we can do that. It's more the way we play and the style that we play. Obviously, we like to play fast. Everybody knows that. And we like to get the ball up and down the floor, and a lot of that starts on the defensive end for us. And so, it's part of what we do, and it's not necessarily who we do it with, if that makes sense. And so, our kids are taught to play a certain way, and that's how we like to play. And obviously, playing in a field that's as deep as the Tosh is, you're going to really run into some teams that are going to take that away from you. And, it's the coaching, the quality of coaching that you find at the Tosh, teams are going to take away what you do well. So we're going to not only have to be able to play in the full court, but we're also going to have to be able to play in the half court as well, because teams are going to take away what we do best, just like we try to take away what they do best. So, we're going to have to show a level of, well-roundedness, if that makes sense, with our game for us to be successful at the Tosh. And, the field at the Tosh is really second to none. I think it's really evolving, and the field there is really, really tough. And so we're looking forward to competing against everybody.
All right, Coach, we thank you for your time. Thank you for talking to us last few days about previewing your team and heading into this. And happy holidays, and we're looking forward to talking to you again on Monday.
Absolutely. Once again, you guys do a great job. We're thrilled to be a part of such a first-class operation and contribute to the tournament any way that we can. And thank you guys for all your hard work.
No problem. So let's, as we're on the topic of Coach Brost and Bolingbrook, let's talk about Highland Park as well. So we know everything we can know about Bolingbrook. Really talented team. Highland Park, what do you got about them?
Yeah, so Highland Park, let me get my stuff up here real quickly. So Sam Rome, is a 3-year starter that leads Coach Dutch's Giants. I think that's an important piece of the puzzle if Highland Park is going to get it done against Bolingbrook. I think Bolingbrook, obviously, like Coach said, it's no secret now. I mean, they're banged up. But I think, this is one of those situations that can kind of give you an opportunity, to get kind of the ship, ultimately righted. But I think Highland Park is going to show some fight. They always really play unselfishly, and can throw the record. You can just really throw the record out for this team. So it's a good matchup. But I think Bolingbrook is pretty strong, and I think that Highland Park will certainly have a little bit of an uphill battle here come Monday.
So we know about Highland Park. We know about Bolingbrook. We were on the topic about DGS and Lemont. Let's go back to Downers Grove South. I believe it's second-year head coach Zach Miller is on the phone with us. Zach, you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. How you guys doing?
We're doing excellent. How are you doing on what's been a pretty hectic week heading into the week of this tournament?
Yeah, not too bad. Trying to stay warm and get all our stuff ready before this big old blizzard or ice storm, whatever you want to call it, comes to knocking here in a few days.
Yeah, first question, you guys are taking on a Lemont team that is undefeated, one of the better teams in this this field. How do you get your guys ready to go to play against a Lemont team of this quality and try to pull off an upset?
I think the one thing about our team and this season is I don't really think I have to or we have to do anything to get up for a big game or get prepared for, a big-time opponent like Lemont is. If you look at our schedule, we've played LT, we played Oswego East, we played Hinsdale Central. I mean, we've gone through the gamut here in just the first short 3 to 4 weeks of the season. So I think our guys know what's ahead and know how good the brothers are of Lemont. And I feel like, we'll be prepared. We'll be ready to throw a couple different things at them, defensively and offensively, to try to take it, we'll preach to our guys, one half at a time, and go in at halftime, make adjustments, and figure out what we need to do going in the second half.
Yeah, Coach, and you just highlighted that kind of tough schedule. It doesn't get easier going into this tournament. But how does that kind of help you guys, like you just mentioned, just elaborating on it? How does that kind of help you guys in this tournament compared to teams who are coming into it, not playing necessarily, as tough a schedule or have, as strong of a strength of record?
I think it just helps us, kind of ingrain this, willingness to compete each and every night, each and every day, whether it's practice, game, and it's, we told our guys, they're faceless opponents. If we learn to play hard and play the right way for 32 minutes and, have a high level of focus, I think it doesn't matter who you throw at us. And, I think we've done a good job of that, this year, given we're a young group. But I think just like anything else, Lemont doesn't care what our record is. They don't care who they're playing. Their guys are going to be ready to go when that ball gets tipped at 3:30, and I think our guys will too. I think a lot of our guys this is their first time at the Tosh, and so I think they're really looking forward to this opportunity because last year obviously of COVID and everything else. So I think we're all excited.
Yeah. And Coach, as you talked about this tough schedule, I mean, it's got to be tough emotionally, as you guys didn't really start out the season too well, but you still competed really well against teams like Naperville North, Hinsdale Central, and a couple of wins here against Morton, Plainfield East. How do you think that these wins will spark a bit of a bit more joy back in this locker room and get some inspired play going to help you guys move on to the tournament? And, like Bobby mentioned earlier, try and attempt to get the upset of Lemont or go far in the consolation bracket?
I think there's one thing that you can ask players and people. There's no way to sugarcoat losing. Losing sucks. I hate to lose. Our guys hate to lose. But it's sometimes, especially with a younger group, you learn a little bit more from these losses and these little details that have added up. Where you don't quite play a complete 32 minutes, and sometimes you can overlook some of these little things. And I think we're starting to shore up some of those loose ends. And I told our guys this at the beginning of the year, and I firmly still believe our best basketball is coming. We're just a little bit short here, a loose ball there, an offensive rebound, missing assignment there. But I truly believe our best basketball is coming soon, and we got to keep chopping wood, and you don't know when it's going to break. But I really do. These guys get after it every day in practice, and they firmly believe that it's coming.
Coach, we thank you for your time, and I know this is the first time that you are actually coaching in this tournament because last year you guys, your team, unfortunately had COVID and were unable to play in it. So we're excited to have you in here. I'm excited to have you be able to play in this tournament this time around. But again, we thank you for your time. Stay warm and have a happy holidays.
Appreciate it. You guys do a fantastic job. Love being a part of it.
So that is Coach Zach Miller of Downers South. And now we've gotten word that we will have Coach run us on here in just a moment. But before we do that, we've jumped around here. We'll talk about Andrew and Conant next. We'll have St. Lawrence and York, and Dunn will join us right after that when we're done talking about York. But, Lemont, they seem like that team.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I just want to highlight real quickly. I love the optimism that Coach Miller has, because I think it's something that's so important in a season like they've had. But we talked about it. If you have younger guys, maybe not as experienced of guys, I think making excuses for a record isn't necessarily. I'm not saying he was doing that, but sitting here, our job is, I wouldn't make excuses for a record. But when he says that and says what the situation is, obviously, it starts to make a little bit more sense. And I think that's something that, who knows? I mean, they really could wake up on the 26th and go ahead and give Lemont a problem.
Right. Now we should have Coach Rick Runnes joining us. Coach, are you there?
I am.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. out of all the coaches that have joined us today. First of all, I talked to what your assistant, Coach Dubs, as I know as we used to call him. So I've talked to him a few days ago, and he's done a good job about telling me about how good your team is. And I asked him this. I'm going to ask you the same exact question. When Noyes Indrositis elected to transfer to St. Rita, what was the initial thought that ran through your head? And as a coach perspective, are you still really glad that he's thriving down there at St. Rita?
I'd say the initial reaction was disappointment. Just felt like we had created something here that allowed him to flourish and get better as a player. And also just kind of, that old-fashioned homegrown feeling where you were creating something from a group of kids that kind of grown up together and that you'd seen develop together. So I'd say more disappointment. And you may not believe me, but once it was determined that he was not going to be here anymore, I don't wish him harm. I don't follow it. He's not on my radar anymore. I don't look at him because we're not playing him. I don't follow him because he's not on my team. I'm trying to work with the kids we have and trying to give them all the support we can and give them all the advantages we can have to develop this team and to give these kids a better chance to win basketball games.
Hey, Coach, and I know in watching those games last year, obviously Indrositis was a huge guy that, a lot of people had their eye on, but the Castillo twins were two guys that we all said really caught our eye. Everyone talks about the offense of the two brothers who obviously committed to UW Parkside. But what can you tell us about their defense that just makes them so tough, whether it's the speed, quickness, etc.?
Yeah, all the things you just said. Speed, quickness, drive, motor, intensity, relentlessness. On defense, they are so good with their hands. Their hand-eye coordination is excellent, getting tips, their anticipation. And then that twin thing, I don't think you can discount it. I mean, one seems to know what the other one is about to do. They don't wait to react to see what the other one has done. They anticipate what the other one is about to do, and they make their next act based on what they have confidence that their brother's going to do.
As you were saying earlier, there's no way around it. It's a tough loss when Noyes Indrositis decided to transfer. And as you just outlined the success of the Castillo brothers, what other players have really stepped up to help fill these roles as you come into the tournament with a better record than you did last year, undefeated, and looking to continue that run into the Tosh and hopefully to get a Tosh championship under your belt on the 30th?
Yeah, that would be an unbelievable feat for this team. You know what? It's been Modest and Rokas improving their offensive output and efficiency, but then it's been about guys accepting their roles, which has allowed for different guys to have nights as time comes up. We've had a senior Connor Murray have a 20-point game in a conference game for a career high. We've had newcomer senior David Bilavicius had a 15-point game. And then all along, coming off the bench kind of in a six-man role, but then in a spot start, Ryan Rennis had his best offensive output with he's averaging right around 8 points a game. So it's coming from a variety of sources and guys, like I said at the beginning, knowing their roles and willing to share the ball and move the ball and just find the right shot.
Well, Coach, you've mentioned a lot of good talent on your team. And when I talked to Coach Wostarski from your program, he did a good job as well as mentioning, last name was Davidus, is a big man who's really stepped in and filled that role. So you guys are really put together, really solid, a big-time team out of the suburban side of teams here in the state of Illinois who are trying to make an impact. And you guys have done it so far, 10-0, and obviously more noise to make throughout the Jack Tosh Holiday Tournament. So we thank you for your time and the best of luck over the next week, and have a happy holidays.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
That is Coach Rick Runnis of Lemont. So we have Lemont Downer South and Bolingbrook Highland Park done. So that's going to lead to Andrew and Conant. Josh, you have a pretty good understanding about, both these teams. So what do you got on us?
So Conant is a Tosh staple. They're one of the best teams to ever play at the Tosh. They've won 2 championships since 2013 with back-to-back wins in 2016 and 2017, and then in 2014 a consolation championship as well. As since 2013, they have the most wins out of any program outside of York High School. So really, really good team, and they're coming in and a little banged up, and their record kind of shows is they're 6-3, losing to a few really good teams, playing at Glenbrook South, who's ranked number 14 in the or Glenbrook North, my apologies, ranked number 14th in the state. Then at undefeated at home versus Barrington Broncos, undefeated, and at Palatine. So all 3 tough losses, and they haven't really been healthy. Camden Lathos missed a lot of time in the offseason with a hurt wrist, but they're returning him as well as returning starter of Yusuf Cisse, who's also a defending all-state team member for here at the Tosh. And this is a really good team. I'm looking forward to watching them, and they had one of the best games I've ever announced, and I think my first ever play-by-play game last year when it was St. Ignatius versus Conant, and Conant hit that, I think it was, his name was Colin Francia, hit that game-winning buzzer-beater 3-ball to send Ignatius home. And for Conant's fans' sake, we won't talk about what happened next game, but great win there, and they're really looking forward to getting healthy and turning their season towards a really dominant year this year out there in the mid-suburban West Conference, and they're going to have to face a team from the southern suburbs in Andrew, who's no slouch in themselves.
No, Andrew's got a lot of talent down there, 6-5, but I think that record is a little bit, it could be a lot better, and I don't think the record shows who they are. There's a sophomore, Ethan Borchers. He's going to run the show. He averages 11 points per game, shoots 44% from 3. They're a team that they can all get it together. And Nathan LaPlante is another one. He averages 16 points per game, and he broke a school record in terms of threes in a game with 11 threes in one game. Had 45 in that one as well. So Andrew's got all the talent. It's all back together. And another one, Austin Kulig is another. 10-7. He's a big guy down low. All the talent is there for Andrew in order to succeed. They have good balance, and their team definitely to be reckoned with. So Andrew and Conant, 5 o'clock at the Campbell Gym. That's a lot of eyes should be on that game.
Definitely. That's going to be one of the most even and best matchups of the whole tournament, at least the first day. It's 2 great teams, 2 skilled, where their records don't really show how good they are. They've both played really tough opponents and played them close. So it should be a fun one to come at 5 p.m. on the 26th.
And now the last game we'll cover, St. Lawrence and York. You'll have York. You can talk about them all you want. But we'll talk about St. Lawrence. They start 5 sophomores. 5 sophomores. They're 8-4 and start 5 sophomores. Give this team 2 years, they'll be really talented. They're super talented, well-balanced. Jacob Rice is averaging 16 points per game, 40% from 3, so obviously the shooting is there. E.J. Mosley is averaging 13 a game. Zarek Johnson's averaging 12. He's another 40% shooter from 3. They've got the 3-point shooting. Coach Byron Burt's team, they play fast, and they're a high-scoring team, and one of their losses came to St. Rita, in which they did a good job fighting. And if you can fight with St. Rita, you're going to be a really talented team. So talk about York and how they have to balance out against a really good team in St. Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to Coach Dunn just here in a sec, get his input, and it was really great to have him in today. But this York team right now, honestly, not really living up to expectations. They're a team that's starting to gel together. It's a bunch of juniors. 8 juniors are getting consistent playing time. 3 seniors are getting consistent playing time. That adds up to 11 by my math, and that's going to be, a lot of players, not a lot of playing time for each specific player as they're kind of spreading it out and trying to feel their way through the season so far, as it's just so many new faces who just haven't had the experience yet. And they're a great team. They've played a few great teams. They play them tough, as well as they just really need to work on limiting those turnovers. Their defense has been immaculate. They've forced a ton of turnovers. I don't know the exact numbers, but at least double digits per game. They're doing really, really well on that side of the ball, but it's a matter of converting opportunities. If you listen to all of our broadcasts so far,
you could hear us talk about how they give themselves a lot of opportunities, but they haven't been able to capitalize on it yet, and they will have one here against St. Lawrence. And we'll kick it over to Coach Dunn for him to be able to explain a little bit more about the York team and what they're going to have to do to beat St. Lawrence.
So we're going to take a quick break. Coach Dunn is going to join us, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
All right, we are here very special with Coach Dunn, in-person interview, head coach of the Dukes varsity basketball team. Coach, how's it going?
Great, appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you for your time. And, the first game we're looking at you're playing St. Lawrence, starting all 5 sophomores.
Yeah.
And, the York's team's a little inexperienced as well. How do you balance the inexperience between your team and their team and what you're going to try and take advantage?
Yeah, St. Lawrence, I saw them play last night. 5 of their top 6 are sophomores, as you mentioned, extremely athletic. They try to speed you up, turn you over a little bit, get you uncomfortable, very well coached. And, we're kind of a work in progress. I've been very impressed with the improvement we've made with our kids. We're playing 8 juniors. A couple seniors, and just constant improvement, which we strive through and for. And last couple practices have been very, very good. So we're looking really forward to the opportunity to play them. Obviously, the bracket is absolutely loaded. So, but it's going to be a great matchup for us.
Yeah, and all these improvements that the Dukes have been making and wanting to make, where specifically are you wanting your team to be able to step up and really take advantage of this St. Lawrence team and hopefully future teams in the winner's side of the bracket?
We got to control the tempo of the basketball game. We can't get into a track meet with St. Lawrence. That's a strength to them. We want to control the tempo, especially defensively, slow it down, and have play them in a half court instead of a full court where they're going to press you and run and jump you a little bit. So our defensive improvements have been very, very good lately. I think we're getting better each game, each practice, and offensively coming around. So again, just a great opportunity for us, and playing the late game on the first night is always special. Just a fantastic tournament.
Definitely, and to give these fans a little more perspective about the Dukes basketball, who's really impressed you so far? Who's been making strides throughout the course of preseason workouts, and now especially as you've gotten quite a few games under your belt and quite a tough opponents under your belt?
Yeah, I think all our kids are. I mean, it's a testament to their hard work and their dedication and commitment. Go down our roster. I mean, each kid has improved in a matter offensively and defensively, and I think the biggest thing is to understand that it's a process. When you're playing, and you have a lot of kids that are inexperienced and playing a kind of a gauntlet of a schedule along with the league that we're in. There's going to be some growing pains, and our kids have been very resilient and persevered and continue to just keep getting better, and just great opportunities lie ahead.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you so much.
So that wraps it up between St. Lawrence and York. Now, guys, let's pick our 4th quadrant. Who do you think is going to win that? Josh, again, we're starting with you.
I'm going to have to go with Lemont here. And Lemont's a great pick. They're the highest seeded one in this bracket. They're a great team with the Castillo brothers who score a lot. And, I've actually read up a little bit on them. So I don't know about Hughes over there and his TCU team who's going to lose on New Year's Day. But, he was kind of wrapped up in watching Max Duggan lose the Heisman. So, he had some fun over there throwing some shade. But I'm going to go with Lemont, the Castillo brothers. Great scorers. They can really shoot any shot on the floor, get to the basket anytime they want. And I'm going to pick the guard brothers to be able to carry Lemont through this tough quadrant here.
Gavin, who are you picking after Josh just ripped into Gavin Hughes?
Yeah, quite the interesting take there. I'm going to go with another upset. I think it's going to be Andrew who goes far. Andrew is one of the most underrated teams in this tournament. LaPlante, he's averaging 15 a game, and even had a game where he had dropped 45 with 11 threes, both school records for Andrew. And they have youth, too. A sophomore starting point guard who leads the team in assists and is shooting 40% from three. And sometimes having this nice blend of experience and youth is very helpful. And we haven't even talked about the returning all-tournament player Austin Kulig. I like this roster, the way it's composed. It's very balanced. They shoot the ball as good as any team in this tournament, and I think that's going to carry them.
I'm not going to let the fact that Gavin's pick was worse this time instead of Josh's pick deny the fact that I'm rent-free in Josh's head. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go Bolingbrook here. Bros, friend of the program, dear friend of the program, I'm going to go Bolingbrook.
Yeah, like I said, we've talked to Bros. I've talked to Bros multiple times, and his dad will be watching. Bolingbrook is, I think they win in the bracket.
Dangerous.
Yeah, they're especially, like I said, get healthy.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to the end of the table with Josh. I want all four of us in here with this one. So let's go through. Who do you think is gonna win this tournament, and then who is that sleeper team that can possibly win this tournament, but will be a pretty fun team to watch? Josh, go ahead.
Oh, wow. I mean, this is a tough one. As we've said all afternoon, this is all really, really good teams. All right, college boy. Anyways, someone had to ask for advice on if his pick was smart or not, and it wasn't me, it wasn't Gavin, Connolly, and it wasn't Bobby Hessling. I won't say who it was, though. Anyways, I will go with the defending second place team. They're a great team, and they really got depth, and Nicholas Palanowski really leads this Lions Township Lions team impressively so. They got experience. They've played a couple of tough teams. They've blown out teams they've needed to blow out. And that's the thing that's really come down to is that if you can execute at the level you need to execute at for any team, no matter how tough the competition is, for teams that are not as good, can you blow them out? For great teams, can you play them well? And can you even get the win? And Lions have been able to do that. And I think they're going to be able to make a run here to the championship and win it all. And they're going to get those Jack Tosh rings on their ring finger.
I don't think it's a ring, but who's your sleeper?
My sleeper, I'm going to go with Lemont.
Okay.
Does that count as a sleeper? No, not really. I mean, they lost Intersidus.
The 3 seed versus the 4 seed. I don't really know.
All right, so then I'll go with St. Pat's then. I really like St. Pat's. High scoring, high flying, a lot of fun, and as I said earlier, battle tested, and they're going to go far, and I think they'll be playing Lions in the championship.
Connolly?
I'm kind of vibing with the Lions Township pick. I either got them or I got Yorkville. Kind of the similar reasons that I said earlier. Two of like the most team-based teams in the tournament. Both have tremendous chemistry, and both two of the top coaches. If I had to pick, I have to say Yorkville will win it all. As for a sleeper team, I'm going to go Naperville North for all the reasons that you guys hit on as well. Coach Nolan, another great coach. They have Luke Williams, who's bringing a lot to the table. I think people are underrating the Huskies.
I'm going to go Rolling Meadows. I just think they're in a favorable spot when it comes to the bracket. Iggy was my other pick, but I'm going to have to stick with Rolling Meadows now looking at it. I think game 46 here, I think that Glenbard South Rolling Meadows game is going to be pretty exciting to watch. I'm totally calling my shot there. Take notes, young men. And so I'm going to have to go Rolling Meadows. Sleeper, kind of on the border here, but I'm going to have to go Stagg. I think that conversation with, I guess, both Struss brothers was very insightful, but I think Coach Struss in particular, I think they got a confident group. I'm going to take them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bolingbrook on this one. I think Bolingbrook, they've gotten to day 5 both times they've been in this tournament. And if they get healthy, I just don't see a way they can lose. That's just me personally. So I think they go 5-0, and we're the only team that goes 5-0. And then in terms of a sleeper, give me Lake Forest. Give me Lake Forest out of it. I think they put it together. I think everything comes together, all compiled together. And let's say you beat St. Ignatius in that 3rd game. You know how to beat everyone else. Ignatius is one of the best teams in this field. So I got to go with I got to go with Lake Forest out as my sleeper. So that will do it for us in the 2022 Jack Tosh preview show. For everyone involved, Jack Borchers behind. Vince Doran is also behind the scenes, getting the coaches in contact, along with Christie and Strus. That's Josh Melvin. That's Gavin Connolly. Those two will both be calling the games on York Sports Network. That's Gavin Hughes, and I'm Bobby Hessling. We have retired from the announcing for possibly good. It should be a fun tournament. We start on Monday, 8:30 a.m. It's going to be in the South Gym. Don't know who's going to be on the call yet. We'll figure that out, but it should be a fun tournament nonetheless. So thank you for everyone involved, and we'll see you on Monday.